And I remember coming to Earth, and I remember dying in a few past lives, and I remember choosing this life. Was they tried to make me go to my room with a chair and touch this electrical wire because they wanted me to live with them forever.
And lots of policemen came out the house. And the policemen came walking towards a table, and they had sniffer dogs. Because I remember the Alsatian came over, and the policemen walked over to us, and they were walking around. And I saw and I looked down at my legs, well, where my legs should be, because it wasn't until I looked down at the dog's face I realised there was no legs.
Yes.
There was nothing there where there should be legs. And the dog had its face where my legs should be, and it looked up at me like it sensed me. And then I heard the policeman say, well, it's definitely murder because there's the body. Hello, people. I'm Serafina, and I'm with my friend here today, Flangelina.
Hello.
We're Coffee Break from Reality. Just a little podcast talking about our life, our experiences in the astral realm, astral travelling, ghosts, you name it. We're going to talk about it. And we take questions which we'll answer a different podcast, but today we're going to introduce ourselves and talk about who we are. So first, I'm going to turn to my friend Flangelina, and I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
So, you've been aware of the psychic world from when you were very young. Can you explain how you first became aware of this, and give a story to explain it?
Okay. I guess I'm one of those weird people that can remember where I came from. So I have memories of not being on Earth, and I remember coming to Earth, and I remember dying in a few past lives, and I remember choosing this life, and a bunch of kind of details with that. But I remember being about 3 years old, and I had these little people that would speak to me, and they were green tinged and half submerged in the carpet, and they would try and get me to do things. And one of the things I remembered was they tried to make me go to my room with a chair and touch this electrical wire because they wanted me to live with them forever. And I knew innately back then that they weren't good beings. I was never afraid of it, and well, I guess until I got older.
Did you see these beings, was there anything about them, their appearance, that you can remember, just if someone's listening to us and they've got the same kind of memories, maybe it can help them know what they were dealing with if they haven't looked into it since?
Oh. How do you mean specifically?
Like any colours? Were they...
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, they looked like... they were specifically, I think, looking like something a kid would like, because it looked like it was right out of the Muppet Show, but with this green tinge. Just, they looked sickly.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me that before. I'm asking because the kind of pea green colour is, when you're in healing, is a colour of sickness. It's a negative feeling, it's a negative energy. So if people have seen things of pea green energies, then perhaps that was from the negative realm. Now, what do you think the negative realm is? What does it consist of?
That could be a podcast in itself.
Just kind of briefly, where's your thinking kind of going with that?
Well, I think that even with astral projection, there's these shadow beings and negative entities out there that you can actually run into. There was somebody's had an experience where they left their body, and they could see this thing whispering into their head and saying these things that the person actually thought it was their thoughts until they realized it was this attachment.
And they saw that while they're out their body.
Yep.
The being doing it to their carcass, left on the bed.
Yes.
I call it a carcass just from my own experiences, and I've shocked myself by how I've looked at my own body and how I've portrayed it and seen it.
Oh yeah.
Detached, you're detached. It's not your body.
Yeah.
You don't even see it as being you.
And you've had an interesting life as well.
Well, yes. I think we share very similar life stories from very young. The same. I never had any negative beings up until I was probably 13. Before that, I remember just having fear of going to bed, fear of what was coming for me at night, but no specific memories of what that was. Just there was little people coming to see me. And I would try and get out of my bed and go through and stand near the living room door where Mum and Dad were so I could feel closer to them because I was scared of these people coming.
Yeah.
You know, and I know, yeah. So I don't remember seeing anything specifically. Mine was more from when I was very young, always having imaginary friends. And to me, they were real, they were there, to the point that I would make my mum hold their hand crossing the road. I'd have to get my gran to set a place at the table for them, and we had a big family and I didn't have enough chairs as it was, so having to give up a chair for somebody that wasn't there, per se, you know, people were very patient with me, I think. But it turns out that, I mean, the names I called them were Colin and Agony and Argentina, and I've never figured out who Argentina is. But years later, and I'm talking maybe only 5 years ago, my mum had said to me, you know, I remember the names you called those people. And thinking about it now, that was, you called her Agony, but Aggie was your great uncle's sister, who the great uncle lived with us up until he passed. No, sorry, his wife. And their son who'd already passed was called Colin. She went, so I think you were actually talking to Aggie and Colin. That's why you would set place at the table and that for them, and because they were to you, they were there, they existed, real, they were real. So that gave my mum the shivers, knowing that, my God, she was actually talking to people who've passed, and she had known, you know, no prior knowledge of knowing their names or who they were, or she could not possibly have ever heard them because no one talked about them. You know, so that was quite scary for them, I think. But I mean, I used to have, the first thing that was apparent to me was the dreams. It's dreams, recurring dreams, same dream night after night after night after night. And in the dreams I could always fly. You know, I don't know, and I think if we're dreaming of flying, but that's because in Astral we do fly.
Yeah.
I think there is no walking about, there's no limitations. When you're young, you won't try and walk anywhere because you're used to flying everywhere, just being somewhere, going somewhere. You know, so do you have any memories of astral projection when you were younger, getting out your body, or did that not start till you were older?
Well, I think I guess when it became super prevalent that it was like something incredible was happening was when I was in my teens, because the first one that really stuck out was incredibly weird, because I used to babysit for this couple, and I remember I didn't realize I had left my body, but I flew out through the ceiling in the middle of the night, and I felt like something was with me, like I don't know, like maybe a spirit guide or something, and I flew into this house that I babysat at, and I saw the dad hanging up blue and white balloons along the dining room window. And then all of a sudden, I thought, oh my God, I'm naked. So I flew out of there because I got worried somebody would see me. And it seemed like it was the middle of the day. And I hid inside the wall, and then I could hear the mom speaking. And the mom was saying, Flangelina will be over later. So I peeked my head through the wall, and I could see her putting the shoes on the kids. And I flew back home because I was a bit bewildered. And then I guess a couple months later, I got a phone call from them, and they were like, would you be able to come and help us with the little girl's birthday party? So I walked up the road, and I got to the bottom of their driveway and looked up at their house that on a hill, and there was the blue and white balloons in the window. So I guess I kind of went into the future, and I'd never heard anything like that when I guess at that age. So we weren't religious or anything, but I immediately thought it was something really dark and terrible.
Yeah, I think at that age when you're young and nobody else speaks of these things, so when something happens to you, it's obviously something terrifying and horrendous because no one talks of this, so it must be a horrible thing to happen.
And you wouldn't want to talk about it.
Well, no, I think both of us didn't speak to anyone really about this. Who can you go and tell? And the one thing I was thinking as you're talking there is, you know, is having a spirit guide with you. You can never see them, You just always feel a presence of somebody with you.
When you get older, you can...
Then you do.
Yeah,
but when you're younger, I know most of my life I've been constantly meditating, consciously trying to raise my vibration, become better. I remember telling my mum when I was very young that, Mum, this is all just a game. This is all just pretend anyway. It doesn't really matter. Like, I knew this was some kind of simulation, and I've gone through a whole catalogue of different reasons why we're here on Earth. It's evolving all the time. Mm-hmm. Now I think I understand, but then again I may, in 5 years' time, have a different perspective. But I always believed that Earth was a university, and we were here just to learn and to experience things. And now my viewpoint's a lot darker. I think experiences have led me to that conclusion. It's not so love and light and everything's happy and rainbows, and it's a lot of dark things happen to both of us through life. I think there's definitely a school element to it, because I know a lot of people have astral projections where they're in school.
Yeah.
But I think we're learning how to deal with this place and how to help this place get out of the place it's in, if that makes sense. Because there's a sense of ego when it comes to thinking about who we are and what our purpose is here. And I know for a long time I always felt like I was special. There was something different about me. But I was kind of humble. I felt that was wrong. I was brought up Catholic, so to think that was blasphemous. So I kind of pushed that down and thought, I can't be special. I'm just being, I'm just being silly. And then I kept thinking, I feel like I'm an earth angel. And well before I ever did any research into what's going on or what happened later on in my life that kind of cemented what that means. Because nobody else talks like that. Mm-hmm. So you must think, oh my God, I'm so full of myself to be thinking this. I can't be. Not realising it's actually just a job. And there's many of us who've come here to do this work. So it doesn't mean we're special. It means that we have a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what I couldn't quite understand. Because my guides were always saying to me, slow down, you're always trying to hurry yourself up. And I'd always ask them, I want to see your true form. I want to see what you truly look like. And for the first 30 odd years, they kept telling me, no, you're not ready yet. What's there to be not ready for? I'm ready now. Give me it, Of course, when they did, I stopped speaking to them for 2 weeks because I thought they were taking the mick. I will tell you what they look like later, not right now. But they didn't have big wings and halos. So I always believed them to be. So when you think people say, your brain makes up the archetype, what you think is going on and blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't, in my experience, because I would have thought of angels and heavenly beings, not what I saw. That threw me a loop, and I'd fell out with the whole world, I think, for a couple of weeks till I got to grips with that. So we're going to try and keep it just the astral projection. I know there's many things keeping in here that we want to talk about, that we could sidetrack ourselves, but I know, and I want to let the audience know that when I met Flangelina a good few years ago now, we instantly clicked. We both felt this feeling of being at home.
Yeah.
A recognisable feeling like we were sisters from somewhere else, or, we just knew each other really well. And we'd only just met through our children. But we started dream sharing very early on in our friendship. And it was always baffling to me because I've been in people's dreams, my brother's dream, and I've been and rescued him from situations. And I have had, confirmation of this, but to wake up from my dream and be thinking about it, sitting outside having a fag, and have a coffee, and then your friend comes round and tells you, oh, you last night, and she remembers everything you've just been thinking about. It kind of is mind-blowing at first. It's like, what the hell? We actually went there? We did that shit? Like, and the stories we've got are incredible. But if I could ask you to remember, one of our first astral travels together, I think the one that was a scary, horrible one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Walkerburn, do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is our first time out together, and it was. I think maybe we were directed to have this to stop us doing it again. Because when after years of this, we became quite a force to reckon with. But it's supposed to put us off, maybe scare us into never getting out again. But I'll let Flangelina explain it to you if you remember them.
You have a better memory for these things.
Well, all I remember from it really, it's still crystal clear in my mind. How can you forget this? Is we would get, we met up, we got out our bodies. The first I was aware of it was flying above the street. And I remember there's all houses and shops to the left-hand side, and to the right was just open fields. And we're flying about, you know, and as we were laughing and joking and looking at people and pointing, you know, and, you know, kind of just a bit mischievous and naughty. But I remember you pointed down at some girl walking along the street. Now, it didn't look like a girl. It almost looked like a walking skeleton. It was human, female human, but she was so white and so thin. To me, my memory was very skeletal-like. She looked very white compared to everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember you saying, "Oh God, look at her! God, look at that face! You know, what a state! You know." And I was laughing at you saying this, you know. And the next thing she looked up, right at us, and we both were like, "Christ, she's heard us! Oh my God, people don't hear us, you know."
Yeah.
People hadn't heard us up till that point, so she looked up at us, and it was kind of shocking, you know, that this person's awake like we are, you know, and they listened to us. So, and what I remember next is just disappear. We looked for her. We're trying to fly about and look for her, and we were flying about for a while trying to find it. And the next thing, boom! In a split second, we were in a back garden. It was open, as in it was just a big concrete. It was like a whole row of houses with no separation between the gardens, just a big concrete with picnic tables. You know, and we walked through what looked like someone's house, out the back door, and looked across to our far right, and this girl was sitting at the picnic table. And just beyond the picnic table was a very tall woman. I remember being very tall, stand beside what I thought was a buggy and lots of carrier bags on it. Do you remember this? And we walked. I didn't speak a word. Angelina went over and started speaking. The girl seemed to respond to you. I don't know if she couldn't see me perhaps, but she could see you, and you were talking, and I wasn't really focused on what you were talking about. I was just kind of looking about where we were and looking at this, what I thought was a buggy. It was kind of it was blurred, you know, and this big tall woman in the trees. And we went over, and you sat down first at the picnic table, and I went round and sat at the opposite side. And I remember the woman saying to you, I hope my daughter's okay. She kept looking back at the house, saying, "I'm only here." She's in her bed sleeping, and I'm only here. It's not far, is it? You know, it's okay to sit here and have a glass of wine. I just feel like she's over there. Have I gone too far away? And you were talking to her about, that's fine. She's just in the house there. You'd hear if she woke up, and you know. And then the next thing, I looked over at the house because you were talking about it, see how far it was, and lots of policemen came out the house. And the policemen came walking towards a table, and they had sniffer dogs. Because I remember the Alsatian came over, and the policeman walked over to us, and they were walking around, and I looked down at my legs, well, where my legs should be, because it wasn't until I looked down at the dog's face I realised there was no legs.
Yes.
You know, there was nothing there where there should be legs, and the dog had its face where my legs should be, and it looked up at me like it sensed me. And then I heard the policeman say, "Well, it's definitely murder because there's the body." At that point, I looked over and realised it wasn't a buggy with carrier bags. It was a human body lying on the floor, naked, murdered. You know, and that, and I think we should have stayed there longer, but I remember being woken with a jolt. Like, I was on the couch in my living room at the time. I'd put myself into a meditative state in the living room, and I came flying back, you know, with a shock. I remember my heart was racing. I felt terrified. I felt like I was going to be murdered any second. You know, somebody was about to come in and murder me where I was stood, you know, and it was this horrible, shocked feeling. But later on, when I spoke to you, because we discussed it and we remembered it, and you were talking about the same as me, it was like a memory, like as if we'd been shopping at Tesco. You know, it was that clear to us both. But you said you got woke up because somebody phoned you.
Yeah.
So that's why we got brought back, because you got woke up with the shock of the noise in your house, which then dragged me back as well. So I think we're meant to stay there longer, perhaps help the girl. I'm not sure if that was our job, but maybe we're meant to send her on to the white light, you know.
Yes.
We're both laughing now because the white light we believe to be a very trickery light. It's the Soul Recycling Centre. Don't take people to the white light. You're working for the bad people.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, do you remember the feelings that came with that projection? It was...
Oh, yeah. That made us quite worried for a while, a couple months, eh?
Yeah.
We even went down there.
To look. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, because we didn't know the area. We didn't recognise it from when we were travelling. We'd never been there before, but between both our memories, we looked up and found the place. And it was only maybe an hour drive from the house.
Yeah.
And we went search, and then we found the exact part, didn't we? The back garden looked the same. There wasn't benches there at that point. It was just open, but we saw the fields led out to the back, the trees, exactly where we stood where the woman's body would have been. And remember, we got that horrible feeling like somebody was watching us. Mm-hmm. And I picked up on a feeling of that was a plumber, somebody who worked for the council, that had been watching this woman for a long time, watching her and watching her movements, watching what she did, watching what, and was planning for a long time to murder her. Because I kept feelings of it was some council worker, it was either plumber or something like that. And the feeling was just this horrible feel. But as myself and Flangelina walked towards this house, we heard what can only be described as a bird screaming.
It was indescribable. I don't think in my whole entire life I've come across that.
No, I haven't. That's the first time and only time I've heard a noise like that.
It was a total flop.
Yeah.
It was insane.
To me, it was as if if you think a parrot learns a woman scream.
Yeah.
And a parrot was to do the woman screaming. To be copying the noise, because it didn't sound like a woman screaming. It was like a bird would copy, like a parrot would. That's the only way I can kind of understand it. And it ripped through my whole body, this noise. It kind of shook me to where I stood. It was a cold sweat feeling, paralysing. I wanted to turn and run.
Yeah.
But you're like, no, keep going. I think that's a banshee. Yeah, let's walk towards the banshee. Come on. Hell, why not? Let's go and get murdered. Yeah, not one of our wisest things. I mean, we didn't die, which was great. But I think that maybe scared me for a little while to ever astral project again. Because I'm thinking, my God, what if we end up somewhere like that again, or back there again, or there's, and I think for a while when we did keep going to people who'd passed.
Yeah, well, yeah. When we first met, that is what we did. We went to the college and spoke to that girl, and yeah, I don't know.
It's like our job, if you want to call it a job, was to go and meet people who died terrible deaths and move them on. It's like we'd taken up position ourselves, or we'd been given it but hadn't realised we'd been told to do it perhaps. But I think at first that's all we did.
Yeah.
Was
and
just take people.
While we were sleeping as well, we would get training to do things. Remember they were teaching you how to teleport.
Yeah, that's right.
They never did that with me, and I know it's because I like flying. I like how that feels, so I wouldn't want to.
That was like intensive training. And I failed the test, I have to tell you. That's a whole story if I could go into it. I mean, that is a memory I'll never forget because it was so weird and wild and, the very beginning being trained.
Yeah. One of the other things was when we were in that gymnasium place.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so we had to set up it was furniture. We had to set up this room kind of in the middle of this gymnasium, and I was looking at this space. And I was thinking, well, if you come in, you don't want to walk this far. You don't want to walk to the center. You just want to sit down when you walk in. So I started pulling the couch over towards the door, and then Nathan Serafina gave me trouble.
I want that couch there. That rug is perfectly in front of the fireplace. The seats there, this thing. Yeah, we used to argue a lot when we were in these shared dreams. Yeah. Why are you doing that? I think our funniest one, right, was when we went to, because all the kids were there too. We both have a troop of children, So we'd gone to this, it was just a house. I don't recognise it as being ours or yours or anything, it was just a house. And I remember being in the kitchen washing dishes. I was always washing dishes when I went in Astral. Everywhere I went, I was either peeling potatoes or washing dishes. I'd find myself, why am I standing here washing dishes? It's a joke. Or the most highest pile of potatoes you've ever seen in your life to peel.
Oh yeah,
I remember that. Let's keep her busy in the corner with the potatoes. But yeah, that dream, I was in the kitchen making a coffee, and I remember you were in the living room and you were trying to, I think you were trying to play a piano. There's something about a piano, because all the boys came downstairs and they were been practicing their bands.
Yeah, this was that old house with the bay window kind of thing.
That's right, yeah. And the kitchen was behind it, and the kitchen looked like it was a new part of the house, because it was like a wall that wasn't part of it.
We must just go to people's houses.
Yeah, we must take over. We must do. But this is the funny part of this, was that Sean was always naked in Astral. I always made sure I wore clothes to bed, because whatever I wore...
I learned this lesson. I go and have a shower before I go to bed, and I stick my towel on my pillow and sleep naked. And don't do it if you're prone to astral projection.
She was always naked. I'd always be dressed like I'm going to the Arctic, just in case I got out. Because whatever you wear when you sleep, that's what you wear there.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were doing our thing, and the boys came down and asking about music, and and we were talking to them about their band, and then it's like every time we were going home, we knew when it was time to go home, when it was time to leave wherever we were, because we just lie down on the floor. Everyone just lay down.
Oh, I'd like to add too, I didn't care about being naked while I was there. It was only once I woke up.
Except I was a bit more conscious. Because I can remember we had to lie down, and the place of all we chose was the front door.
Yes.
A small hall at the front door. We decided that's where we were to lie down and wait to get taken home. So curled up in a ball, lay down, I was behind her, and I realised that my face was in her backside. I'm facing her bum. And I remember feeling quite perplexed and saying very, very strictly, please don't fart. I must think that I'm actually awake and living, and this isn't astral, because you wouldn't be farting in astral.
Oh no.
But I'm thinking that it's so real.
And if I was even slightly more conscious, like, yeah, you can just decide what you want to look like.
Yeah.
How many times did I have the long black hair and that black spy suit thing?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So weird.
Yeah, we were really cool. Eventually.
Yeah, we got cool.
At first, not all.
Oh, let's see. Oh, should we say something about how to?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good place to go, yeah. If we're the experts on this, we just kind of do it. Yeah. I mean, well, you say first how you...
Yeah, because you mentioned the other day, because we would do this all the time, and we had something happen, which we'll probably talk about at some other point, but our ability to get out, it was totally hampered. So it happens kind of sporadically now, but it's getting stronger now. So what you want to do is when you're going to bed, you first have the intention in your mind of what you want to do. You go to bed thinking about that, like where you want to go. That's always a good thing, because I'm so indecisive here and there. So it's good to have a plan. And when you're lying in bed, just like, I don't know if you know about chakras or if you care about them, but your heart chakra is like super important for it. You just kind of open yourself up to the world, and you just send out so much love and go to sleep with that kind of, just that lovely feeling and the intention, and that's usually how I do it.
Yeah, but you mentioned the heart chakra. Sorry, I'm cutting you in the bit.
Oh yeah, it's hugely important with...
It's huge, because I've been stuck because of my heart chakra before.
Yes.
I lifted my head up on my neck, but I couldn't sit up because there was something still locked.
Oh, okay.
And I had to lie down again and just let myself relax and imagine my heart opening and being happy and no fear. Mm-hmm. And I tried again, and I got up this time.
Yeah. Yes, and there's lots of, like, for beginners, because I know that this stuff would happen. Like, remember the vibrations and stuff when you're laying in bed. You might confuse that with your bed shaking or from The Exorcist or some shit, but it's all part of the whole thing. So you get like this vibrating feeling up your legs and your arms. And what was I gonna say? Dang. Oh yeah. So just before I leave, I get this like total white noise, like, and then it'll either go just completely like quiet, or else sometimes there's a popping noise, and I think that's more of a signal for me to let me know I can leave, and then I don't get out of my body like a normal human. I just zing out, like I just fly out.
Yeah, I sit up carefully. Yeah, I get the same thing. I feel like I'm starting to relax more and more, and then I feel like I'm falling into the bed, into the mattress. That used to scare me.
Oh yeah, that happens. That's that tripping dream, I think. Yeah. Everybody has that.
Yeah, you start to fall backwards, you know. But I used to get paralysis.
Oh yeah, and that's part of it.
Yeah. And I think that's because I feared leaving, because before
that's when you're still conscious.
Yeah, when it happened when I was sleeping, I was fine. But consciously doing it, lying down to purposely get out, there's that little lingering thing, oh my God, what, there's monsters.
And it feels like it takes ages too. Like you're stuck and you're fucked.
What if I never get back in?
Yeah.
You know, because I've had the paralysis since I was 13. I remember the first time having it, absolutely crapping myself.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't open my eyes, I couldn't scream for Mum. I felt like there was people around me, there was people there, and I couldn't see them, and that was horrible. Because I couldn't open my eyes, I couldn't do anything. I was wide awake, I was trying to scream for my mum, and my lips wouldn't move, and I had to I just knew somehow to just relax. If I just relax and try and fall asleep again, I'll open my eyes, it'll be okay. And I was. I just relaxed, and I did. I opened my eyes, like, thank God, But I mean, sometimes I would relax, and then I could move my mouth. I could open my eyes, but I couldn't move my mouth. Different parts of me would be working, But that was really frightening. So having experiences like that then makes you in the future scared to relax and get out, because what if there's bogeyman waiting for you? People tell you horror stories. Oh, you'll hear screaming monkeys.
Oh, the Hag experience.
You'll hear this, you'll hear that. And I think you only hear that if you're expecting to hear that. If you're scared, you will probably create that or draw that to you.
Yeah, you have to think of it like as you have anxieties in life, and it's like if your anxieties, your children, because this has happened to me before, where the sound of kids screaming, furniture being chucked about, that's happened before. Yeah, it's all kind of a manifestation of your mind, I suppose. Yeah.
Or people just playing tricks on you, who once you get out aren't there, by the way.
Yeah.
You don't see anybody. There's nobody there. I often think they're between the world of consciousness and unconsciousness.
Yeah.
Once you pass through that field of reality, whatever, because I think you must pass through it to get to this point. There's a space between A and B.
Yeah, and there's such a difference. There's the astral world and the real-time world, where like when I was 15 and went into the future at the couple's house or whatever, that was real time. There was nothing astral about it. You go into the astral world and it's very similar to this world. There will be things that are the same and things that are completely different.
Yeah. Things like my room. I only knew I was an astral by looking at my bedroom. And sometimes it'd be a slightly different shape.
Oh yeah, I had different wallpaper one time. Yeah.
And it's something that your brain is putting there, or somebody's putting there, whatever, to tell you this isn't real, so don't actually die of fright. If something was to happen, not saying it will, but to make you remember it, so because there's difference between being awake and being awake.
Yeah.
So if you can then know where you are and say, I'm at my body, then you can utilise that. Rather than how many times have I been at my body and not been aware of it?
Yeah.
I remember one time wasting a whole night trying to fix my front door because the lock was broken.
Have you ever laid in bed the whole night totally conscious, thinking that you're awake, but you're actually asleep and you're just sitting there tapping your fingers?
Yeah, and you could have gone anywhere.
I know.
No, you don't realise till later on.
That's
crap. But yeah, do you remember the time it was? You and your youngest came over to visit.
Oh yeah.
During the night.
Yeah.
And I was out my body, and I'd spent a good 2 hours trying to fix my front door lock because I was
and it feeling like the front door to get into your house.
Yeah.
I just came in through the bedroom wall, as you do.
Yep.
Yeah, there was.
I was shouting at you.
Yeah.
You came in, And I was so in a huff with you. You've broken my door.
Yeah.
You've broken my bloody door. You know.
And I was very conscious that time.
Yeah.
I remember saying to Bruce, I was just like, it's okay, she's just dreaming.
But for a long time, I was having experiences where there was locks broken on doors.
Aye.
And I was obsessed with going about and locking them and fixing them. And I think I must have felt like somebody was trying to get into my reality that I didn't want to get in.
Mm.
So it was manifesting in my travels as locking doors everywhere I went.
Yeah.
To keep them out, keep them out. And I think that was probably true because not long after that, different types of experiences happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is kind of sideways on, but when everything started to change for me, as in it wasn't so much rainbows and unicorns, was when I saw a fire elemental flying towards my house. And I've never seen anything like this in my life before. It was a flame. It was flying by itself, hovering, and I saw it go through the bottom bedroom window. And after that, I had 3 fires in my house. 3 times my house went on fire with different things. And I think I'd opened up to something. Maybe, I don't think it was during the astral travel. I think it was actually through doing a Wiccan circle. We decided to start a coven and do all these crazy spinning and stuff, and I think that actually was a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
I think we, got the attention of a lot of people we shouldn't have. Those watching from the fringes of reality, they came to mess about. I mean, I've always had nonsense in the house. So, things disappearing. You've put something down, tell me it's gone. And you put it down, it's gone, and then you can't find it anywhere. And the next day, you'll look and it's exactly where you left it.
Yeah.
You cleaned the units and did this and it wasn't there, and I mean, to some crazy things where something turned up where it could never have possibly got itself. And you think that was put there.
Yeah.
Things like being a smoker, they would hide my cigarettes. I once lost a 10-pack of cigarettes when they sold them, and I couldn't find them anywhere. And then it wasn't until night I was making supper, they were in the toaster. I wouldn't put them in the toaster. I was raging, I had to go and buy them in a packet. But there's always the bumps in the night that you get when you do what we do. I think when you're consciously aware of that world, you do open up to another reality. And I think it hovers over ours. There's layers. And I think they both share the same layer, to be honest. It's just what I would call AM and FM. And humans are on the FM channel. AM is where they reside. They're there walking around us, next to us, looking at us. They can see us, but we can't see them. I know that really frightens a lot of people. Until you start thinking, well, who the hell are they? They can't do shit to us. They can't hurt us. They can only say boo. There's lots of people. God, we laugh so much sometimes.
That's an important thing about the astral world too, is not being able to get hurt.
Yeah, you can't get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
never be afraid of anything.
Yeah.
And plus, since it's a world of manifestation, and your thought is your thought rules. So if you're confronted with something scary, which is either your own mental manifestation or whatever, if it's a psychic attack or something, you can just think of a weapon. I like to use laser eyes.
Yeah, you're good at that.
I just imagine lasers coming out of my eyes.
And I see them. Don't melt his brain. Oh, too late. Oh, dang. Some things you can't unsee. Yeah, but I don't have that so much. I think one time I manifested something. The balls of light, yeah. But I usually find that I really kind of hold myself back on it, I think, because I remember one time trying to phone you and having to look around the floor for a bit of log, a bit of wood that was the same size as the phone. Yes. Then I picked it up, that'll do. And I spoke into it, and you're like, oh, hiya. And I think I could have just telepathically spoke to you without the bloody piece of wood.
And normally when you would come to my house, you'd stand out my window and scream my name.
Yeah, I would, yeah. Come on.
Wake up.
I'm waiting for you. Come on, we're having fun. Places to go. We end up having a lot of places to go, which we'll come to. But yeah, the one thing I want to broach here in the midst of all this, because I think it's the elephant in the room that no one's speaking about, is that I know a lot of people will understand this and be scared to talk about it, but the voices in your head, because it's telepathic world over there.
Yeah.
Intentions are vocalized, as in nobody speaks. You hear it as words in your head because we translate the energy into words, because that's how we communicate. But beings will communicate with you telepathically, and you'll hear the voices in your head. And sometimes when you're lying in your bed, falling asleep, you will hear voices talking to you. Like you saying the person earlier saw the shadow being leaning over and speaking in their ear. Mm-hmm. Now, I've had that countless times. And my son the other day said that he heard somebody, he was in a dream, and he became aware of somebody whispering in his ear. And he knew it wasn't in the dream, he knew it was back home at his body. Mm-hmm. So there is that. And I think being telepathic and psychic, I've always had people in my head talking. Mm-hmm. And then you go through the stigma of, oh my God, I'm a schizophrenic.
Oh, totally.
But you can shut it out when you're bored and tired of it. When it's too much, you just shut the shutter down.
Oh, yeah.
You can turn that off, But I know the voices in the head, sometimes they can be very negative. Mm-hmm. And tell you things and try and scare you. And when you're coming to your body, I've had people before, I remember trying to astral travel at one point, and it felt like there was energy swooping down over me going, Seraphina. Swooping over me, and I was like, piss off. Whereas maybe 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, it's the devil.
Totally, I'm possessed.
So you do, it's one thing telling you this now, because it won't make you feel any better if you're going through it. You have to go through it and then develop that kind of thick skin or understanding of, okay, these guys can't do shit to me.
Yeah.
They can't do anything. And especially I had a night out the other night, and I was with my partner actually, because we can do it together as well. We have done before we met, as you know.
Yeah.
I met him because we were meeting up in Astral all the time. Mm-hmm. Just so happened we ended up planning to meet in physical, and now we're together with a child, So I was talking to him, but there's a dark-haired man there who will come into the conversations as the podcast continue. Always there, just try to piss me off, And every time I tried to speak to my partner, he would start speaking. And I got so angry that I manifested a tennis ball and threw it at him. I just chucked at him. He's like, you're vicious. You ain't seen nothing yet, pal. I'm Scottish. Don't mess with a Scottish girl. So, there is things that you can be scared that initially you would be scared of. But really, there is no reason.
No, there isn't.
Because we're made of energy. Things go through you.
Yeah, and we're talking about what we look like my being naked is a thought projection, because I went to bed and I thought I was naked, and obviously in my past I've thought I was naked, but who knows, maybe it sticks in my brain. But when you go out and you get to that kind of conscious part and you actually see what you look like, you're a tiny ping pong ball size of light. That's all you look like. Yeah,
and I've been aware of myself
being a light. We forgot about with protection and everything. When you're out there and you come across somebody, the first thing you always say is, "Are you a being of the light too?"
Yeah,
isn't it?
Well, I've made it...
Or show me your true form.
Yeah, for me
it's
true.
That.
For me it's true form. And I made it a regular practice that I was always telling the universe, whatever you want to call it, I only see the truth.
Yeah.
I only see the truth. And I made that my biggest intention.
There's
And once you do that, that's when you see the truth. And boy, do you wish you hadn't asked.
yeah.
Oh my God, that's the truth. Shit. Erase my memories. Go back to living light and unicorns. No, not really. I wouldn't. It's just not anything people would expect. Mm-hmm. I think, and I don't want people who listen who are religious and want maybe, have your ideas that you've learned about reality and beings and what they are and who's looking over us and that there's a God, and I don't take that away from anybody, but the hard truth of it is that really there is the energy that runs through everything. It's like if we're all made of the same Play-Doh, You know, we're all attached by invisible Play-Doh. You know, we're all part of that same energy that runs through us all. There's all connection between all of us. You know, and that's the essence of God, if you want to say it.
And that's where the dreaming all happens as well.
Yeah, and it's a shared experience. But you'll meet beings of all different levels of consciousness in that realm.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are. But the one thing I'll say is you won't ever get a situation that you're not ready for.
That's true. Yeah.
Because consciously, if the consciousness is like a golf ball, then you'll only get a golf ball understanding. You know, when your conscious gets bigger, as in maybe the size of a melon, then your understanding would be enough to fill a melon. You know, you know more. Something you might see would be completely, your brain could not comprehend it, doesn't make any sense, so therefore you just forget, you chuck it out. You won't get it, you won't grasp things, you'll think about things from a human perspective. You know, and that's a very limited way of looking at it. Because once you start growing and learning, it's like your head's filled with all this knowledge, mind filled with all quantum physics.
You have to go into it with like the curiosity of a child, really. Yeah. The fearlessness, curiosity of a child.
Yeah, I mean, I act like a child when I'm there.
Yes, we are,
just silly, giggling, nonsense, you know.
Totally.
I remember being somewhere and there was like, I'm running about, there was adults there who should be the same age as me, you know, but I'm running about with these other people who look like children, you know, and we're running across flower beds that people were trying to plant, and they were telling us, "Oh, come on, get down off there," you know, and I'm thinking, I'm like a kid. You know, and I wake up and think, oh my God, I'm in my 40s and I'm running about flower beds like a, you know, naughty kid, you know, and embarrassed, and I'm really sorry whoever that was.
Oh, I was going to say as well, like, just with talking about the heart chakra, was whenever I want to travel anywhere, I was just thinking about, like, you getting stuck, and because everybody experiences that, I've experienced that. It's just like all of a sudden you can't move. But the best thing to do for me, because everybody is probably going to be different, but when I need to go somewhere, I use my heart chakra. I don't know. That's where I function from.
Yeah,
so if I want to visit my parents, I just think of that, and then I focus on my heart chakra, and then I go.
Yeah, that's definitely true for me. And I think I used to, many moons ago, think. Now people be thinking, what do you mean you used to think? You know, thinking is one thing with the head. That's thinking with the head. But I now do heart thinking. It's like my heart mind. And it's completely different. I no longer have words in my head. You know, I totally function just with the heart. It's just an intention, a feeling, and I react to it. I feel something I want to do, and I just do it. I don't have that mental chatter.
Yeah.
Because the mental chatter can get you in so much trouble. You know, and if you're in the head all the time, so if you're one of these people that always think about things and talk in your head, then you'll find it harder to go to the heart. Because your head's your dominant chakra. You know, so if you're always in the heart, you haven't got that mental clutter, you haven't got the constant, it's so much easier to slip into the state of being to get out your body.
Yeah.
Because you're not listening to all this crap going on in your head,
peace,
you know.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how my guides trained me to do this. It was torture. I've always heard my guides talking in my head like it's, you know, Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder. Someone talking, you know, they'll tell me off. I swear they tell me off, you know. So they were teaching me to block out outside forces, to block out noise or invading thoughts. Because a lot of the time when you're thinking, it's not actually your thoughts, they're projected into your head from the outside. People don't know this, so they think it's their thinking. You know, so I was being trained to block that, so I wouldn't listen to it. And what they did was they would sing a song to me over and over and over again, and I had to block that song out. You know, I had to stop it, and in the beginning I would just keep singing along, and then be like, God, I did it again, you know, and block it out. And this went on for sometimes hours at a time, until I was absolutely livid, going, right, I've had enough now. If I could get my hands on you, I'd punch you. You know, this is insane. You know, you've sang the same song to me for 4 hours now, you know. But eventually, after months of that, I could just click, turn my head off. And there's not a thought. It's like tumbleweed blowing through my head. You know, I cannot think. I don't ever think anymore. You know, I know when if I hear words in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, really, you want me to think that, do you? Because it doesn't come from me, because it's not natural for me anymore to actually think in words. I don't know about yourself, how you manage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm probably not that clear, because I think it comes in and yeah, I'm a lot more in control than what I was before, I would have to say.
Because that's one of the hardest things, isn't it? When you're trying to get yourself in a meditative state, and you start thinking about, oh yeah, I forgot to buy potatoes today at the shop. You're like, oh come on, shut up, stop talking, and then you try again, and then something else will come in your head, and something else, and you can't get there.
That's a good point as well, with being able to focus as part of like, if you want to learn lucid dreaming as well, or astral projection, is to be able to focus, and meditation is a great resource.
Yeah.
Mindfulness and have control of your thoughts.
Yeah, to have mental control is the
huge
key.
Yeah.
That is the key. Because, I always say, if you're not in control of your head, who is? Because there's many entities out there who would love to take control of your head, who would infiltrate thoughts to make you do a behaviour that's then going to, trip you up in life, or, make you... Because I think the goal in life is to reach the highest conscious state. And I don't think that's good for people in charge.
Yeah. Because
we're uncontrollable then. We're not going to do as we're told. We're going to be free and fly off and be merry and lovely, And so there's a certain success, to all this, is to be able to quieten the mind and just absolutely take control of where... Because my guides always told me, where your head is, that's where you'll be. Or where your thoughts are, that's where you'll be. So if you're thinking of negative thoughts, or of fears, that's where you're going to be. That's the reality you're going to create for yourself. So therefore, that's where you're going astral.
Yeah.
You'll create those realms through your fears. So if you then practice positive thinking... I think
lots of people have nightmares, like reoccurring nightmares.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think they're facing people who are actually bad. I think they're creating projections to understand where they are.
Yeah.
Something's trying to tell, the higher self is trying to tell them.
There's so much confrontation of fear and dreaming, isn't there? It's a total second world to this world, because you learn so much over there. Yeah.
I remember being 15 years old, and I, for maybe a year, maybe not as long as that, it felt like a year, I was being stabbed to death every night by the same dude. He had long straggly hair, long black rain jacket, and he was chasing typically down a brick alleyway. Did
you have one high heel on?
So I'm running down this alleyway, and he'd get to the end, he would always stab me, and it's like, no, I'm dying, the last thoughts of death, and I'm an expert at dying, being murdered by now, it's that many times. But one day I just stopped, I just suddenly got this realisation, what am I doing? I stopped and I turned around and I says, stab away. And the guy stopped and looked at me confused, like, what? And I went, well, I'm in my bed sleeping. So you can't actually hurt me, so here, carry on. And I remember I'm just, this very strange voice, fuck off. And then he turned and ran away, and I never dreamt about that again.
Yeah.
Finished, done. And I've confronted my fears. Maybe it was a dude chasing me, stabbed me. Maybe he got great pleasure every night in doing that. But, perhaps it was just me having to stand up to my fears and realise I'm not actually here physically. I'm made of smell. I'm just a fart. You can't chop up a fart, A lovely smelling one. With a curry for tea. But I'm just an essence of myself, really, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So nothing can hurt me. So, all that, every night, I still get murdered now. Don't get me wrong, and sometimes I do slip. I was murdered just the other week. And that was bloody horrible, The fear I felt in that dream, it doesn't matter how many times you go through it, right? Sometimes you're very conscious and like that, and you say, oh, come on, enough's enough, here you go, take my wrist, slash me, But the other night was horrible, because I always have to face my enemy for some reason. And I remember being in my grand's house, looking at my old bedroom door, where I used to live, and just in the room. And I knew there was a horrible dude in that room wanting to murder me. Mm-hmm. And rather than run out the house and down the street, I couldn't do that because they beat my back and I wouldn't know if they were coming after me. I don't like that behind my back. It gives me the creeps, the heebie-jeebies. I'm running away. I could get hit any moment. I'm not going to know. Do you know? So what I should have been doing, what I've been trained for a long time, is just getting the shit out of there. I don't want to be here. Okay, I'm shopping in Tesco now.
Yeah, you're good at that.
That's one thing I can be really good at, but certain times I'm not, and I think it must be the frame of mind I went to bed in maybe, or if I'm too stressed that day or too tired and I feel like I've been trying to chase my tail all day, then I won't have the consciousness to say, you can't hurt me, I'm still in that kind of running mode, because I remember standing on the stairs going, no, I've got to stand here and watch them coming for me. I have to see them coming for me. I have to know when my death's happening. I knew they were going to get me. I didn't want to have my back turned, So I had to stand on the stairs and waiting. I've come on, I'm waiting for you, terrified, like a little kid waiting for the bogeyman, Mm-hmm. And I'm standing on the stairs and then the door opens and these two creatures come out. They look like two human men, right? But more like, if you've ever seen that show, Kevin and Perry, the long gangly arms, baseball caps back to front. They look like that because these guys' arms were really long and they were flapping by their side, flapping in front of them, like they're waving them in front of themselves, coming at me. And I'm looking at them, fucking horrified. Like, oh my god. And the million thoughts went through my mind at that point. Oh my god, kids, I'm so sorry I've let this happen. I'm so sorry I didn't escape. Now you've got to go to my funeral. That knowing I'm that, saying goodbye to life, I've done it countless times, And I don't remember I've done it before when I'm doing it again. I'm just dying again, But this feeling's horrible, this, that's it, I'm dying. That's you've got this gripping on to reality, wanting to stay alive. No, don't take me. But it's fruitless. You have the depression of knowing that there's nothing you can do. You're just dying, and I could write a book on fucking murder. I know exactly how it feels, I'm still alive. This man climbs through the window. Oh, really? But I think, it was a horrible feeling, and I woke up from that, like heavy breathing, pants sitting up like, Jesus, again. Right, now I'm going back to sleep and I'm going to come after you bastards. Because now I've remembered who I am.
Yeah.
So you better turn and start fucking running. Excuse the French. Gets me feisty. But you've never been murdered, have you?
No, I've had a weird, how they would say, like, that whole kind of urban legend thing that if you fall in a dream you can die.
Yeah,
and people have said, oh, people have died of heart attacks. I remember falling off a cliff in a dream and I hit the ground and I was like, oh, I didn't die.
Yeah, you see, and I've heard people say, oh, he died, he must have dreamt he was falling. Really? It's that easy to commit suicide? Yeah. Just dream you're dying.
Dream of excess or something.
Actually, you've reminded me of something very, very important to say there. Talking about dying. One time specifically I remember, and I wasn't scared, didn't have any fear at all, I was completely relaxed, I had no thoughts about it. But when I was leaving my body, I heard my body do the last breath. Mm-hmm. I heard the, come out of me, and I was aware of it. It didn't bother me at all. I didn't think, oh my god, the body's dying, I better get back in. I just heard it like, oh, that's interesting.
Yes, that's interesting.
Again. But I didn't fear it, and I think maybe if I'd feared it, I'd shoot back in my body and wake up and I'd lose the chance to get out, Mm-hmm. And I think I had a great night that night. I can't remember where I went, but I remember thinking, thank God I didn't react to that. It was, I think maybe that's the night I got through my wall. Yeah, it was. That's the night I went for the first time walked through a wall. Ah. I always wondered if you could do it, because I heard the death breath and I realised, oh, that's me slipping my body now, And then I remember opening my eyes and seeing my hair above my head. Mm-hmm. As in, I could see all the blonde hair, like it was 3 feet in front of me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm out. So I sat up And I looked back at where I lay on the bed, and my body was doing this kind of convulsing thing. It was kind of fitting, having a fit, spasming. Mm-hmm. And I looked at it and I thought, ooh, I hope that body's going to be okay. Anyway, see ya.
I remember you came to me one time, and you were standing at the foot of my bed, and sometimes I'm a bit like daft. I don't know. But anyways, I kept trying to get up. And I guess because your energy was there, I couldn't stand up. Do you remember that?
I was pushing you back in.
Yes! So I'd flop out of my body, and then I'd be sucked back in because I couldn't get out.
Get out of the way!
And I remember one time you came and got me. You were yelling outside my window. I was like, I'm drunk.
I remember that.
Yeah. So you could be drunk in Astral.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. Yeah, you've been pissed a few times in Astral, eh?
Yeah.
Going about all over the place, half daft.
Which is kind of normal for us.
Yeah, because I came and stood outside your bedroom window that night, shouting up, pissed. I knew you were pissed. It's all right if you're pissed. Come on, the ship's waiting. Me and we used to have some crazy, silly nonsense, as in we'd always talk about sailors. And that you reminded me that night of when
the captain's room.
Yeah, the captain's room. Yeah. Oh, it must be the captain's room because it's green and orange.
Yeah, it was an Irish flag. Isn't that weird?
There's certain things you say in Astral that make absolutely perfect sense, the both of you, But when you think back, what the fuck did I mean? It must be the captain because it's green and orange,
It's the captain's room. Yeah.
We better sneak through this one. Tiptoes.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
There's a lot of stupidity, eh?
Yeah.
I remember one time being chased through the sea by Poseidon. I remember thinking he was coming after me, and I actually had guilt for a long time after this, right? Because I remember looking behind me and seeing Poseidon, right? And I'm like, oh shit, I better run. Because obviously everyone chases me and wants me dead, right? So first thing, better run, And you're not really scared. I have to say that. I've taught me not being scared. You're not really scared. It's more like everything's a game.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm being chased now, I better run. But I remember running through the sea, and there was these tiny little fishing boats all in front, maybe 14 of them all in front of me, filled with little tiny Filipino men, And I'm running, and I remember by mistake, I knocked them with my arm, and they all went over, right? Every one of them was upside down. And I was like, oh God, I hope they're okay, And I kept running, looking back, Poseidon, like waving, laughing, can't catch me, Well, on the news the next day, all these Filipino boats had capsized and they'd all died. And I honestly believed that was me. Jesus!
Yeah, it's a symbolic premonition.
Yeah. I was just telling myself this was going to happen.
We should talk about premonition dreams as well, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, that's how I started with all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the very beginning, yeah. Yeah, but yours, when you were young, that's how you learn. You're psychic, aren't you? Mm-hmm. By dreaming it, and then it happens.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, what? Whoa.
Yeah.
To the point, actually, my friends at high school, it was one of our things we did every morning, was they always asked me, oh, what was your dream last night? And I would tell them, because guaranteed, every time, it would happen exactly the way I'd said. Mm-hmm. Sometime later in the day, or later that night, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's your dream, as soon as it happened. It was silly things, like, one time, I remember telling my best friend at the time, I dreamt about us last night, and we were walking with your boyfriend, walking down from the gym, down this back alley, and there was a red sports car there, and your boyfriend was like, oh wow, look at that sports car. He was acting all bravado, and he knows everything about cars, he's the man, and you actually knew everything about it more than he did, mm-hmm. And he was really pissed off and fell out with you, And I was telling this, and then it wasn't until later that night we were hanging about, and then we'd been out doing things and ended up at the gym, quite by accident. We didn't plan any of this. You're a teenager, you don't remember what your plan was to do anyway, No. So we're walking down this alley, and there was this red Porsche, or red sports car, and the Sean's like, oh yeah, that's this make and that make, and Nick is actually wrong, it's this year, that one, that, and he fell off and went away, stormed off, and you looked at him and went, that's your dream. And it happened exactly. That happened every night for like years and years and years.
Yeah.
And then I think it just that stopped because when I became aware, I'm a precog.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
Yeah.
And then once you know
Mine
it...
wasn't so, like, I would have it, like, kind of every now and again. Not as often as you. And I think I'm probably more empath and sensitive. And sometimes I get clairsentience. I remember, this is another car story. This has nothing to do with dreams, though. I remember I was with my friend, and we were going to this play, and it was on this island. And, yeah, she had this ladder. And it was really acting up, and it was doing all this weird stuff. And I know shit all about cars. And she looked at me, and she's like, "What do you think it could be?" And I instantly knew it was her alternator belt. And I told her how much, and she took it into the shop the next day because it was the middle of the night. We ended up hitchhiking to this place. It was a hippie island.
Oh, it's fine.
It's totally fine. Yeah. So then she got the mechanic to see it, and it was a alternator belt, and it was £6 or $6, like I said it was going to be. So I know stuff like that, and it's just instant, and it just comes out of my mouth like I'm just kind of propelled to say stuff.
Yeah, you don't think of it before. If you do think, you probably would get it wrong.
Yeah, totally.
You just have to have verbal diarrhea.
Yeah.
You know? It just flows, and I've got most of my information that way. Like for you asking questions, and suddenly I'm just, I answer it. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And I learn that way too. I didn't know before I spoke. You know? Yeah. And I always thought, is that my higher self speaking through me, or is that my guide speaking through me? Someone. I mean, I know I've always had this kind of negative entity hanging on to me since I was 13.
Which I'm sure, like, most people that are extrasensory know that. Yeah. Or, like, have that.
Yeah. And I think it's only just of late I've realised what that actually is. Because I used to believe in ghosts and angels and all that. You know, I really didn't understand that was a small window. You know, wait till you get to the big window. I'm not the gigantic window yet, but I've got to the big one. So, you know, this person always spoke to me, always was my best friend, did everything for me. And, you know, I'll hurt that person for you if you want. I'll do that to them. If you just get me their soul, you know. Get you what? Get you their soul, you know. Yeah, and I used to think it was just my best friend or something, you know, it was just a bit
wayward.
Yeah, a bit crazy, you know. And they, you know, if I was in a shop and I'd be like, try to calculate, oh my god, how much have I spent here? And I'd hear my head 1836. And I'm like, really? And then, it would be my turn. They would ring it up, 1836. I'm like, fucking hell. You know, it's really true what the voice that talks to me. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you build it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you start really believing it. And I mean, it is because it is someone talking to you. You just don't realise it's befriending you to lead you astray. You know, you know, if you're going to be this kind of force on earth, you know, that's going to do a lot of work in Astral to help people or to kind of help Earth ascend, then they're going to want to stop you before you even start.
Yeah,
because that's not a good thing, you know. In fact, one thing I'll interject with here is that the ringing in the ears. You know, a good way of knowing if there's entities around you. I mean, I still can't say categorically that's what it is, right? I know that I hear really high-pitched ringing in my ears, and it's like putting a microphone close and far from an amp. You get the feedback noise, and it moves like that. It waves up and down in kind of tempo, and you know.
It's a subtle thing as well. Just even that, everybody knows this feeling where, like, you're sitting in a room and someone comes in, you feel it, and then you look and someone's there. It's that's the exact same feeling too.
Yeah.
It's just so subtle. It's really not shocking that people don't pick up on things. Because I think everybody has something about them that's extrasensory, I assume.
I think maybe, because we live in a world where people don't discuss that and it's not taught in school, that it doesn't exist then.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I find that quite upsetting sometimes, because you look at what people used to think was ridiculous 50 years ago, bloody load of nonsense, and now it's science fact. But I heard scientists say that when they looked at the model of the universe and how the universe is created, and you put it into a computer model, that's exactly how they would create a holographic universe. Exactly the same. Which made them think, are we living in some holographic reality? You know, which is why we can't be hurt. Because this, here you have the illusion of being hurt, right? You think you are, so you believe you are, so therefore you die. you know what I mean? I think we're the masses of limitation on this planet. We limit ourselves so much, and if people became aware there's actually so much more you can do, you can heal yourself of really serious illnesses, you can get out of your body and go and visit people and change life, change the world, which we'll get to another podcast because we've gone on for long enough now, and we have lots more stories to tell you about things that we got up to while in Astral that actually made a difference. So I'll say good night from myself.
Good night from Flangelina.
Good night from Serafina. Hope you're having a lovely time wherever you are in the world, and we'll catch you at the next show.